Hello, let's take a look at Game Boy comics all the way back to 1990. Game Boy was a comic book series that lasted 4 issues. It comes from the very early days of Valiant Comics. Valiant Comics was a comic book company that Jim Shooter founded after being fired from Marvel as their editor-in-chief. He drummed up some capital by licensing licensing Nintendo, and also WWF at the time, raised some money from that to create the comic book company that we know later on as Valiant. Valiant went on to do superhero comics, mostly taking older comics like Magnus Robot Fighter, Dr. Solar, and stuff, and then creating new characters like Bloodshot, etc. It was white hot for a time in the early to mid 90s. Really, really popular stuff, and then sort of fell apart when Acclaim took it over. But in the early days of Valiant, they were licensing Nintendo and WWF, and I remember as a part of that key demographic for Nintendo, I ate up the Nintendo comics. Most of them lasted 4 issues like this one. Game Boy came at a time when the Game Boy was coming out as well, and so they wanted to promote it. And what's funny is that there's this comic book, and also Game Boy turned up as a character in Captain N, which was the Saturday morning cartoon promoting Nintendo games as well. This Game Boy comic mostly centers around Super Mario Land, which was the Mario title that was not created by Team Mario, but probably some other team at the time. And most of the characters that you'll see here are from Super Mario Land. And the whole conceit is that they pop out of a Game Boy and they fight in the real world. Pretty neat stuff. So let's take a look at all this. Here's an ad for Puss in Boots. This isn't just any old Puss in Boots. There it is at the bottom of the screen here. A Toei animation with that face. This is probably a Japanese game that was ported over to North America by Electro Brain. I remember these commercials running through a lot of comics. Here it is, the first page of Game Boy, for first comic of 4 for Valiant Comics. Now, to the left, you'll see credits, and the problem with these credits for Valiant Comics is that they're very unclear. It's like, who penciled this? Who inked this? Who wrote this? It just says names, and it doesn't say what they did. So that's kind of an issue. You'll see here, too, a Hershey's product placement. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. And, of course, you'll see a lot of art for the packaging of the time. You see Super Mario Land to the left here. Game Boy was very, very popular, not just for kids, but for adults as well. And indeed, there were commercials specifically geared towards adults, like playing this stuff on plane trips, business trips, things like that. The art is very interesting, soft edges and everything. So here's a dude who works for a video game store. He has a Rambo poster up, American flag and everything. He doesn't agree with, giving to the homeless or anything. This guy tries to ask for spare change, and he's like, no, get away from me, and kind of tells him off. He claims he was almost mugged. He wasn't. He was just asked for change. He goes into this store, and, no one likes to work or anything, but he takes stuff from this store. The store owner's like, we've been shoplifted again, and he's like, oh, fancy that, and he takes a Game Boy for himself. I think he already has a Game Boy, so I don't know why he's taking another one. So here are the heroes of this. Aside from Super Mario, it's Josh and Rick Campbell. And I'm going to assume they're brothers. I always thought they were just friends. But they're in the mall, and they want to look at some video games. This guy wants to look at Super Mario Brothers 3, and this guy is too wrapped up in his Game Boy game, so they walk away, and they're chasing girls. It's a mall in the 1980s. And suddenly out pop all of the villains of Super Mario Land from the Game Boy. And these are all characters that are not exactly household names anymore. Nintendo has all but forgotten about Tatanga. Tatanga was a space alien who took over Sarasa Land in Super Mario Land. A great villain for Mario. Um, with him are all sorts of characters like Bun Bun. I remember that name. The guy riding the seahorse above Tatanga is Pianpi. He's based on the Junshi craze of the 1980s, the hopping vampires. And you don't really see those characters. You don't really see any of these characters anymore in Mario media. But here they all are, all sorts of them. And this is great stuff. This is some of the only media where these characters appear. Because Super Mario Land was sort of forgotten as the Team Mario games came out more and more and more over the years. And so Tatanga has Princess Daisy. This is not the same princess from Super Mario Brothers games. This is a different princess who kind of looks the same. And so they've captured this dude who is working at the video game store, and they want to take over the world. And Tatanga's reading this dude's mind. Here's Pianpi, who is depicted here as the right hand of Tatanga. I love all this great art with the Super Mario characters drawn in their style and a more realistic approach to the real world here. And so all these characters take over the mall. And here they are running rampant through the mall, attacking humans. Pretty epic stuff, you know, so now everyone sees that these guys are real. And there's explosions and fires and things as these spaceships and enemies attack the humans. And Daisy's trying to manipulate Tatanga. She's like, oh, I want something to eat. Quickly take me to a place I want to eat at. And so Tatanga wants to please Daisy, so he does that. And they're reading this guy's mind. The one dude here is going to try and summon Mario. If Tatanga is able to be summoned, maybe he can summon Mario from his Game Boy. And so he does just that, and Mario appears, and he's like, where's Daisy? Here's an ad for the Captain N comic book based on the Saturday morning cartoon of the time. Captain N was a character created to promote Nintendo. He's a video game master in our world that goes into the video game world and fights characters from other games like Mother Brain from Metroid, etc., etc. And they made a comic book series as well. Here's an ad for one of the Super Mario Brothers comics. This is issue 3. I have this in cardstock, and I don't know if they made a regular style cover for this. But these were fun. A lot of Super Mario Brothers 2 characters in this, which was the more popular game at the time. 3 was just coming out. And here's an ad for Nintendo Comic System. I have this. This was cool. It was a bigger comic that had a bunch of different stories in it. Stories from some of the series they were running at the time, like The Legend of Zelda, Captain N the Game Master. Those were comic series that Valiant was running. But also other stuff you wouldn't normally see. There was a Metroid comic story, of course, Super Mario Brothers. There was a Punch Out comic story, which is really, really good. This is cool. And I don't know how much these go for now, but I cherish mine. It was pretty fun reading at the time. And here's another ad for The Legend of Zelda. They're really pushing their Nintendo comics hard. So this is issue 2. You know, it's funny for someone my age who got out of games fairly early to hear young people say that Link doesn't talk. He talked in my day. I don't know if he's mute in those games or what's going on, but in the new games and stuff. But like in my day, he talked. He was a character, and he talked. All right, here's part 2 of In the Palm of Your Hand. Mario's on hand, and he's gonna help. He is going to go fight Tatanga. Meanwhile, a dark, ominous cloud hovers over the World Trade Center, which at the time was the Twin Towers until the unfortunate horrible tragedy that happened. But for a long time, the Twin Towers were iconic and emblematic of New York. And so here, these two are going to follow Mario to try and fight Tatanga. And Tatanga is dining in a posh restaurant with Daisy. The villains are recreating the stages from their game. And the reason why is because it's their world, so they're remaking our world in their image. One of the characters asks Mario why they build things to benefit Mario, like the stars and the mushrooms that make them bigger. And Mario says, like, no, they're not made for me, they're made for them. But I use them against them. That's pretty neat. Here Tatanga is talking with Daisy. Daisy's trying to manipulate Tatanga to go away and be left alone in a brig somewhere. And Tatanga laments that he wants to please Daisy, but Daisy keeps trying to manipulate him. So I should say this restaurant that they're in is the Windows on the World restaurant, which was on the North Tower. It's sad to see now, but this is how much the Twin Towers were in pop culture of the time. So Mario then attacks all of these characters in the Windows on the World restaurant where Tatanga and Princess Daisy are dining. And Daisy manipulates Tatanga even more. And Tatanga is like, you know what, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I just want to kill Mario. That's all. They really put a lot of thought into this. Comics like this, of course, as I said before, were just aimed at drumming up money for the real project, which was all these superheroes they're going to bring in. There was a lot of thought and effort put into these comics. These Mario comics, the Nintendo comics, and the WWF comics of the time for early Valiant. Here's this video game store worker subduing Mario for Tatanga. One of the Campbell boys comes in and rescues Mario. And Mario's like, nice save, kid, play ball. So anyways, now Mario is going to try and face Tatanga. And Mario gets a power-up, of course, the Invincible Star. And now he's going to plow through all these characters. And this is where Tatanga makes the realization that you only live once on this world. So it's either him or Mario. And Tatanga is sort of spooked by this, and he retreats back into the Game Boy world. And Mario's like, I'm going to go back and get Daisy, and maybe I'll come back in a few other issues. I don't know. So Mario retreats into the Game Boy, and these security officers come and get these two kids. And they're left with, what if they invade somewhere else? So that's basically the point of this Game Boy comic series, is that characters come out of the Game Boy and they invade someplace, and then Mario defeats Tatanga, etc. And here's the next issue. They're all in space. Pretty cool stuff. You see Mario is tiny there in a big, giant spacesuit. And here's a little write-up from the editor, and of course asking for letters to publish. And here's Mario asking you to subscribe to the Nintendo comics. Super Mario Brothers, The Legend of Zelda, Captain and the Game Master, Game Boy, Nintendo Comic System, which was the big deluxe thing. I love how these are like 12 issues and everything, and these comics lasted 4 issues. It didn't last very long, so I don't know what happened when you when you submitted this with $21.95. Did you get reimbursed? I have no idea. Anyways, I hope you like going through this with me. If you like what you saw, please give a like to this video. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Lots of great comic book stuff on here. So until next time, take care.